But I will point out to the members of the audience here, this is, again, first reading. There is no action at this meeting. It is an opportunity for a public hearing. I actually have 12 people signed up for a public hearing. All right. So I have 2 people who need to leave, and I will point out I need to leave early, obviously. But what I want you folks to understand here is that we've heard very eloquent testimony by Bus Riders United Local for probably the last year on this particular issue. I don't think there's any more that really needs to be said on this. We understand the issues. What I'm hoping is the presentations and the testimony can be very brief. I'm going to limit it to 2 minutes today. I actually hope it will be less, because what I think the issue is, I'd like to know if you're supportive of the ordinance or not. If you're not supportive of it, what changes you think need to be made to the ordinance, and a very concise understanding of why those changes should be made. We've heard the issues, we've heard the background, and we understand why the folks who were testifying wish to see this transfer time extended, and extended beyond what's in the limits of the ordinance we have before you today. So with that, I'm going to ask you to be very brief, and I'm going to start with Paulette Rossi, with Jonathan Oster and Casey. I have the last name, right? Jonathan, okay. Come on up, please. I'm not going to go first. Please. Jonathan, please.
Thanks, Chair Warner, board members, Chair Manager McFarland. I just want to briefly take a moment to offer appreciation for the board and to look back very briefly about the last 4 years that we've been organizing around transit equity issues. The last 3 years of which we've been pursuing this particular ordinance. Not the exact terms, but something very close to it. At the time that we started doing this work, almost 4 years ago, actually Dr. Bethel had just joined the board, and we had a whole new, different cast of characters on board. And the way in which the agency was engaging with the public was quite different back then than it was now. In fact, at the time that we started organizing around transit equity, you couldn't testify to a particular ordinance prior to the vote on the ordinance. And it seems like such an obvious thing now, but 4 years ago, it was a fundamentally different paradigm of how this particular board engaged with the public. And so I just want to appreciate the cultural shift that's happened over the last 4 years to some degree, and we look forward to continuing that engagement. And the fact that we have a board that is much more actively engaged and considerate of the issues, which wasn't quite the case 4 years ago. So we want to appreciate those shifts over the last 4 years. I do just want to also address one thing. It seems that there's a misperception that this particular policy proposal is just a local and Bus Riders Unite issue. It's not true, and I'd like to just take a moment to appreciate and recognize all of our different partners and funders who have supported us over the last 3 years. We've got over 30 community-based organizations that have specifically formally endorsed this particular resolution for the 3 hours, for the full 3 hours. Center for Intercultural Organizing, and Casey is here to talk on their behalf. Asia Pacific American Network of Oregon, Centro Cultural, NEA Youth and Elders Council, Hacienda CDC, Portland Community Reinvestment Initiative, VOS. Those are just a few of the organizations that represent communities of color and immigrant communities, documenting independently their need for 3-hour transfers in written documentation submitted to the board, and the Coalition of Communities of Color just endorsed yesterday. It's amazing that my 2 minutes is up already, if that's what that means. So I'll jump right to the end. Hopefully the Bus Riders Unite leaders that have been with us for the last 3+ years who are in the room are going to be able to testify in their own voices as well. And it's important just to understand that a lot of the support is based on trust. It's based on relationships and trust. And that's what we're really looking for from this board as well, because I think as we turn the page and move forward, it's incredibly important that we have a more trusting relationship, and that's what we're hopeful for and we're looking forward to. I don't want you to think of this as a risk for the agency. It's not a risk for the agency. The cost, the exposure, very negligible. The benefit to the community is enormous. It's substantial. And so what we're asking you to do is dig down and find that will, that spirit to go to the 3 hours, at the very least, give us that up or down vote on the 3 hours that we've been asking for, that we feel like we deserve after all this hard work. And, we know we can't get everything we want, but to be able to get that transparency and that vote is very important for our communities. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Please.
Good morning, Board President and members of the board. My name is Casey Jama. I'm the Executive Director of the Center for Cultural Compromise. First of all, I want to say, as a community, we really appreciate the work that this board and the General Manager, Mr. Neil, and Tonell Bell has done for the last few years to have a discussion, honest discussion about equity and the need of the community for the last few years. Neil and I and Tonell Bell and I met in my office. We talked about different ways and different strategy, ensuring that how TriMet can meet the need of our community in general. I have no question and I have no doubt about their sincerity and their wanting to make sure that we as a community uphold the values of equity and justice for all. Having said that, I also know that the Writers Union and the other folks has been working this issue for many years. And as a community, we're only strong when we uplift the bottom up and encourage. So I'm encouraging, I know that we have no time, but my bottom line is that we are in this together. Our faith are intertwined. And I want you to consider what the trusted unions, writers, and authors are asking, which basically to give 3-hour change. And that's what my bottom line is. But also, I want to ensure that I would like to continue the discussion and ensure that whatever decisions that we come up with, the importance is that we as a community need to move forward and hold our community equitable one. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it. All right, now Paul M. Rossi and Keith Schultz.
I'm Paulette Rossi, and I believe that when people like myself who are mass transit dependent die, we are going to be reincarnated as pack mules. Because every time we make a trip on TriMet, we carry something back home. We always leave with backpacks and shopping bags, and they never come back empty. We might go to the doctor, we might go to get a haircut, but we know we have to carry food home for people, for pets, we have to carry cleaning supplies, clothing, everything that other people had put in vehicles' trunk, we have to carry home. And I believe that the 2.5-hour and even better 3-hour transfer is not only a benefit for the mass transit rider because it gives them more time to shop and do services, but it is a benefit to all of the businesses that pay the payroll tax. So if you don't want to extend it for us riders, extend it for the businesses that will get more people shopping and more people buying goods and services because they'll have that time on their transfer to shop. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'm Keith Schultz, and I'm with Opal Bus Riders Unite. And I just want to make a quick, concise statement. I am very appreciative of the consideration of the transfer extension. It may not be what we requested, but it is sure a start. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right, Douglas Allen and Jim Howell. I think this is second act here.
I'll go ahead and start. Take less time. Doug Allen, sorry to ask that twice, but this is important. Members of the board, chairman, I wanted to deal basically with the issue of the round trips. I'm recently retired after 34 years of working in the TriMet Service Planning and Scheduling Department. And so I was there when the change was made from transfers that were line specific and set on them, trips allowed in one direction only, to the system that we have now. It came at the same time as what was then the honor fare system, and that has since become self-service fare was implemented. And I think the Oregonian's editorial this morning said it very clearly, that round trips are a benefit, and to imply that there's any intent, that there's anything wrong with taking a round trip, is not a good thing for TriMet to be doing. I could spend hours talking about the philosophy of what fares should be and what subsidies should be, but the people who are using transfer for a round trip, one of those trips that they're making is going to be using underutilized capacity on the TriMet system. And so to think that we really should be charging these people for a round trip, they're transit-dependent people making round trips for shopping, charging them the same amount as what a commuter is being charged who's utilizing the most expensive capacity on the TriMet system. I think it's not right to think that we should just charge them twice. I think the amount that we charge should have some relationship to the cost as well as considerations of equity. So I think what the Oregonian said this morning about no longer saying that the intent is to have a trip in one direction, I think we should just eliminate any further putting forth of that idea. Thanks very much.
Maybe Jim Howell again.
Right.
Whether you make it 2.5 hours or 3 hours, I don't know if you do, but there's one issue in this that you are not addressing, and it is the unlimited rides after 7. And as I see, it was dropped because of the proposal due to enforcement ambiguities. I helped design the transit fare system when I was in TriMet 35 years ago. I don't see any ambiguity in this. I think it's very clear that whether it's 2.5 hours or 3 hours, it's 9:30 or 10 o'clock, after 9:30 or after 10 o'clock, that it would be good for the rest of his service day is not ambiguous. And in fact, it could save lives. If people knew that they could use transit to come back and wouldn't have to pay an extra fare, they may not take their car and have that extra drink. So I think, and this doesn't cost you anything, so I think dropping that part of it is a mistake, and I would like to see it back into the ordinance, whether it's 2.5 hours or 3 hours. As far as I've handed out 2 pages there for you. One is your existing fare system, the second page, and the first page is what I'm recommending as a change. And if you look at the second page, you can see all sorts of inconsistencies in the fairness of the current fare system. And I think, although it's not part of this ordinance, I think you should go back and look at what you did a year ago. I think some of the assumptions and proposals are extremely unfair, especially to young people. It's a deal for us old folks, but not the young folks. And there's 3 times as many young folks in poverty than there are old folks. And I think that's something we should recognize. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next 2 people are Ethan Peak and Terry Jarrell. Will you please come this time?
Busy person.
Well, good afternoon. My name is Ethan Peak, and I am a student at PSU pursuing a master's degree in economics. I've been working with Opal and Bus Drivers Unite for a few months now regarding this issue. I know it's been a bit of a contentious issue for a while, so first off, I want to say thank you for giving this proposal the attention it deserves. I think that the forthcoming change is a step in the right direction, and I believe it will be beneficial to many people around the city. That said, myself and many others who have studied this issue believe that it's possible to take another step further in the right direction by changing the transfer time to 3 hours instead of the 2.5 that is considered today. This is an opinion that I hold up taking a look at data gathered by a survey by Metro, the same data which formed the basis of Econo West's cost analysis that I know you're familiar with. So my goal when looking through this data was to find out how many people would actually be affected by a change in transfer times. And i.e. this is people traveling via transit on outings that are 2 to 3 hours in length. So skip over most of the numbers and technical stuff in the interest of time. Eventually I came up with 50 outings that fit this criteria, which became 32 after removing any outings that didn't involve payment cash. Because TriMet has proposed 2.5-hour transfer time, I looked at that also and found that for the 32 outings, 15 were less than 2.5 hours and 17 were more than 2.5 hours. So what my analysis essentially comes down to is that over twice as many people would benefit from a change to a 3-hour transfer time instead of a 2.5-hour transfer time. This might appear to suggest that twice as much revenue would be lost as a result of a 3-hour versus a 2.5-hour transfer. But that's a bit dubious. According to the data, only about 3% of all regional travel via transit is within this 2 to 3-hour window. So a policy change like this would hardly put a dent in any aggregate profits. Additionally, only about 10% of all travel is done via transit, which means that there is a relatively large pool of infrequent or non-transit users that new ridership can come from. So by adopting 3 hours instead of 2.5, TriMet significantly increases the attractiveness of transit for short trips by these people. Thanks.
Thank you. Terry?
Yeah, so as most of you know, I'm not Terry, I'm Avon, but she couldn't be here today, so she asked me to read her testimony for her. She actually, the last time she tried to give testimony at one of these meetings, it was another marathon meeting, and she ended up having to leave early despite having taken vacation time, so not going to put her through that again. She says, "My name is Terry Durrell, and I'm a member of Bus Riders Unite. I'm also a civil engineer for a government agency, and so I tend to look at transit issues from a systems perspective. I am an ardent supporter of the 3-hour transit time, and I firmly believe that the biggest beneficiaries of the 3-hour transit time will be MAX users. The MAX line system has had the most emphasis placed upon it in recent years, and yet it is arguably the weakest link in the transit system. If something happens to a bus, there's a small blip in the system that can easily right itself. However, if something happens to a MAX train, such as the recent train derailment, the entire transit system feels the impact for hours, if not longer. And MAX line riders would benefit the most from a 3-hour transit time because of the way the tickets are handled. If you get on the bus while the ticket is valid, it is okay if it expires before you get to your destination. However, your transit ticket needs to be valid the entire time you are on a MAX line." She explains about her personal experiences and then backs up what she just said about needing to be valid the entire time by saying, "I've been on the train waiting for the bridge to go back down," which delays the train, "and I have witnessed the fare enforcement officers handing out tickets to people whose pass had not yet expired but would expire before they reached their destination. The best part was that this was their second delay in their trip because their previous train had developed problems. I would be seriously upset if I had done the right thing, purchased a ticket, and then was handed a $175 fine because the transit system had experienced a failure. I understand that the board is willing to extend transfer time to 2.5 hours, and that is laudable. However, 3 hours is preferable simply because the transit system requires it." She also says, "I find it odd that the 2-hour pass is looked at differently than any of the other passes. A year pass isn't 365 trips. It's unlimited travel within a 365-day period. Day pass, unlimited travel within a day. Why shouldn't a 2-hour pass also be considered unlimited travel?" There's more to her testimony, and I will be submitting it in writing. I hope that you're all able to read it because she has a lot of good things to say, and I'm sorry that she wasn't able to be here to say them directly to you.
Thank you. Next two people, Nicole Johnson, and is it Melinda Vanderveen?
Mike.
Oh, it's Mike, okay. If you two would come as quickly as you can. Don't mean to rush you, but it is a quarter of one right there.
My name is Mike Vanderveen, and I'm a coach here at the East Portland Action Plan. Got a $5 ticket in my pocket, and I enjoyed the ride in. Thank you guys for hearing this testimony. East Portland Action Plan is a coalition of folks that are working to better what's happening in life and being able to live well in East Portland. It's the outer part of Portland, and so transit is a huge thing. And every year we set priorities because our action plan has 268 action items. We're not all that schizophrenic. So we actually focus on specific action items, and we have an action item prioritized for the last 2 years to improve transit, to connect our residents to jobs outside of our area, because we're being really realistic that there's not a lot of economy happening in East Portland relative to other areas of town. So we voted in support. We don't take direct votes, but we have achieved consensus in support of Opal's original proposal for the 3-hour transfer, as well as unlimited travel at the end of the day. So I'm here to express that, and thank you so much for being here and your service on the board.
Thank you.
Hi, board. My name is Nicole. Good morning, or afternoon, I guess. My name is Nicole, and I'm the youth organizer at Opal Environmental Justice Oregon, and I am speaking on behalf of youth from all school districts, Portland Public School District, David Douglas, Park Rose, Centennial, Reynolds, all the school districts. Okay. But I also have a personal testimony that I would like to share with you, so I'll go ahead and read that. Dear Board of Directors, my name is Kanani Khalil, and I am a board chair of a youth-led nonprofit called Momentum Alliance, in partnership with Opal. I'm also a full-time student at Portland State University and have to ride the bus number 4 from North Portland, the St. John's area, to Max Transit on MLK, and from there to school 5 days a week. I not only ride the bus to school, but I work. Sometimes I just want to go to school for a class and get back home, but found that the transfer is really short. It is hard to get, it's really hard to pay for a $5 transfer every day, and it's almost impossible to leave home and get back with the same ticket, even if I only want to go somewhere really fast and get back. I sometimes have to pay for extra fare when I'm so close to home because of the several transfers it takes me to get home. I appreciate you for moving forward with 2.5 hours and implore you to please approve 3 hours. It takes longer to get around coming from the edge of the city, especially when I have to make several transfers, and I would appreciate a 1 hour increase. I just want to say thank you so much for working with Opal, Bus Riders Unite, and all of our partners with working towards moving forward this 2.5 hours. But we need 3, and I appreciate if you amend the ordinance to make it 3 hours. Thank you.
Thank you. And the last two that I have is Jean Nasser, I may not have said that right, and Teresa Soto.
Jean had the lead.
My name is Paula, and I'm reading on behalf of Jean. My name is Jean DeMaster. I am the Executive Director of Human Solutions. The service provided by Human Solutions touches the lives of more than 40,000 people each year. Human Solutions serves people who live in East Portland and East Multnomah County, an area where TriMet bus transportation is made difficult by the lack of north-south routes.
Jean, I don't want to interrupt you, but we did receive all of that, so you don't have to, I would like to ask you not to read it all, since if that's all right with the board, would you like to hear it reread again? If you could summarize what is being said.
Okay. Well, I'm not Jean. I'm just reading on behalf of her. But on behalf of myself, I'm a transit dependent, and I think 3 hours, in my experience, would definitely benefit me. And I know other people that I've had talked with. Thank you.
And this was handed out to us sort of for the president. Wish you would communicate to Junior. I for one did read it. So.
I read it.
I did too.
Thank you.
And it will be appointed record.
Buenas tardes. I'm Teresa Keishi Soto. We, Opal Bus Riders Unite, have been asking for the extension to the transfer time of 1 hour, 1 more hour. Since 2011, the 30 minutes that you are proposing is not enough. Bus riders who pay the $2.50 single fare need the whole hour. It has taken our time, Opal, BRU volunteers and staff, and your time to come to this point. Hooray for us. You who are on the board now are not the same board that I addressed in 2011, except with one exception, I think it's Dr. Lee. I'm always happy to see all of you, and as an Opal BRU member, I look forward to continue seeing you again and again and again and again. I want to encourage you to take the bus for all of your life, living activities, for all of your needs. Try it for a whole month. Please make an effort to get to know what actual bus riders experience. Even after you leave the board, you can still have this experience. After you do this, then you can support us BRU members in making TriMet the best that it can be, in assuring that bus riders are considered when decisions that affect them are made, and that we bus riders have a voice in the implementation of a bus system that is efficient, affordable, safe, and humane. Muchas gracias. Thank you.
That concludes all of the persons that we have signed up for public comment on the ordinance. Have you missed anyone? Not any questions, anything from the board, any other amendments? I just wanted to comment.
Just a comment that I get lobbied by my spouse. She wants TriMet to be free, so I go home, this keeps going on. So anyway, I want to say thank you for your efforts at Opal. I think you all know about politics and things work. It's a very good start, and this doesn't mean there maybe in the future, which means it's always open-ended, that the board would entertain 3 hours. Ain't no promises.
Okay, nothing else from the board? Any considerations of amendments? First reading stands, and it will come back before the board in our next board meeting. Okay. At this time, we're going to adjourn the meeting of TriMet Board of Directors, and we'll now move to the public forum. I have 2 people listed for public forum. You would come at this time. We have Chris Walker as well as Jim Howard.
Hi everyone, I just wanted to take a minute just to stop and say thank you for the ability to have transit and to ride. It's a lifeline to me because I have no car, and solo service and all the ways that I can get around are a real blessing. I just wanted to say thank you, and I know that there are many others like me who have the same feelings, but you often hear all the negatives, and I just wanted to say thanks a lot. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris. Howard.
Me again, Jamal. I just wanted to say a little bit about a situation that's going on in Northeast Portland on the number 8 line. There's a proposal to build a layover in the Woodlawn neighborhood. I don't know if you've gotten any information on this, but it seems that line was cut back severely in order to save money a couple of years ago. And now there's a proposal to build a permanent layover at where it's been cut back to. And my concern is that's not a good place, as a transit planner, that's not a good place to end that line. And not necessarily go back to where it was originally, was with Jubit's truck stop, but there are other options that would make it a lot more productive and carry a lot more people and connect to at least 2 other bus lines and a light rail line with only a 5-minute extension. And so I don't think that this is a good idea to spend capital money building a layover facility in the wrong place. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes all we have signed up for public comment period forum, and that concludes our December meeting. Best wishes for the holidays, Christmas, and the New Year's. We'll see you next year. Have a good night.